Suprabhatam, everyone. Welcome to the second podcast with Sindhoora ji on chanting journey for holistic growth. So today it's going to be a continuation of the previous podcast that we did. And in this forum, Corporate Seekers, our endeavor is to pursue the core fundamentals of what we are wanting to achieve in our life, that is healthy body, calm mind, happy family, and a prosperous Bharata. And in the form of external pursuits, external freedom, we are pursuing the freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of people connections, and freedom of. Am I audible, Sindhuraji? Okay. So, freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of people connections, and freedom of pursuing what we believe in. And the inner freedom elements, which include freedom from the sense attachments, freedom from our own identification, the wrong identification with this body and mind, freedom from the process of seeking itself, and the ultimate freedom, moksha. So, in this pursuit, in the last podcast, we discussed that how chanting has a role to play in our daily life. And Sindhuraji very beautifully explained different facets of chanting. And today, we will know more about her own life journey and take it from there. Sindharaji, welcome back again to Corporate Seekers.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
And the theme of the topic itself is chanting. So I would request you to initiate podcast with an invocation chanting. Thank you.
ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् महागणपतये नमः प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु आनो दिवो बृहतः पर्वतादा सरस्वती यजतागन्तु यज्ञम् हवन् देवी जुजुषाणा घृताचीषग्मान्नो वाचमुषति शृणोतु वाग्देव्यै नमः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः Namaste.
Thank you, Sindharaji. Let me see if I can pin your video here. Yes. All right. So, for the audience to know about your life and journey, Sindharaji, if you could help us understand where you come from, what has been the early days of your life been in childhood?
Okay, that's a lot of ground to cover. Having said that, sometimes I feel all of that is also unimportant because we believe in samskaras, correct? But however, I will try my best to give you a gist of how it all started, perhaps. I had a very regular childhood growing up in our family. It was important that we had a very strict schedule, in fact. Wake up at a certain hour. My mother was a crazy disciplinarian. So wake up at a certain hour, quickly finish the morning ablutions and everything, and then study for some time, go to school, come back from school, have a bath. In fact, she taught us how to wash our own, as soon as we come back, socks must be school uniform, right? All of that rinsed and put away right off. And this I'm talking about ever since I was in kindergarten. So that is how it all began. And chanting, I'm getting there because every evening when we sat down for homework, I have an elder brother, so my brother and we would go to our little altar. She would light the lamp, so we would sit and chant a few prayers, and then straight to our desks to do the homework. And that is all the way from copywriting, cursive letters and capital letters that we used to learn. All the way from there, it became a habit. And I think it came all the way through our childhood up to high school. I still followed the same routine because it was instilled at such a young age. It became a habit. You talk about cultivating habits, right? So this is one of those important things, I believe, when you instill it at a young age. And my personal kind of an inquiry or understanding of life, I think as children, most of them are curious and they ask questions. So where do we come from? What happens? What is death? And what is life about? I have been pestering my mother with these questions ever since I was little. My mother, even today, says that, when they would drop me off at a nursery before kindergarten, I would never go into the classroom. I would always, put my hand in the back and just wander about for the 2, 3 hours that I was there, just in the play area, looking at the trees and the plants, as though, brooding over life already at that age. So maybe those questions, that is why we believe in samskaras, right? Maybe there are certain impressions that needs to come into fruition. The prarabdha carried that. So growing up, I got very frustrated with life. I would always ask my mother, Ma, what should I do next? School, I never liked school. I never liked college. I was a very good student. I was always one of the toppers, but I just hated school. I liked studying. I would always ask my mother, can you just teach me at home? Do I need to go? It's because, how the very traditional schools were, right? You sit in the same room, in the same place, everybody's assigned a place, entire day you're there. So that was not really my thing, I suppose. So I would ask her, what next? What do I do next? Because lack of clarity, right? I mean, at that age, I don't know if we are supposed to have clarity, but that question. So what do I do after I go to college? Then I study well. And then what do I do after that? Get a job. And then after that, probably buy a car, get an upgrade, then start investing in a house, get married, have children. Is that all life is? It came to a point, this was after college, after I graduated. I was about 21, 22, when it really hit me, because I too am a qualified engineer who went into the corporate, and I was shocked. Um, Probably, again, my own personality, I suppose. I didn't really like it very much. I felt, I would always tell my mother, it's like everybody's coming to work with a poker face. We can hardly have genuine conversations, and there is really no freedom, true freedom of expression. It is all just sugar coated. So this I could not take anymore. I worked in the corporate exactly for 1 year, 1 month, and I knew I was never going back. And then the pursuit actually began. So what do I do? What do I do with my life? What is this life about? Is it just about going through these mundane chores just so we exhaust the time we have here and then become worm food? These were actually the questions, and that wasn't a very pleasant phase. Lot of contemplation, lot of anxiety, lot of frustration, things like that. And when well my we come from a family who run educational institutions. So my mother suggested that, until you kind of find out what you really want to do, go ahead and learn something about childhood education. So I did a 1 year diploma in Montessori education. So I'm also Montessori trained, and that's when everything started slowly changing. The schools that we went to were very conventional, the British style of schools, and I studied in a convent school as well. And when I got introduced to the Montessori way of education, I was really pleasantly surprised that an alternative existed. Unfortunately, we didn't have it in our town. So my mother was the first to open that in our town. So I am from Mysore, and my family lives about 40 kilometers away from Mysore, originally from Coorg region. So slowly, things started opening up, and I realized that no, learning can be fun, life can be fun. And in Montessori, it is not just introducing the subjects, the topics, but it is also about kind of instilling certain, behaviors and social behaviors and how to understand one another. And it was not simply horizontal age grouping, it was vertical age grouping, as in different age groups are in the same environment. So, you look up to the elders and you kind of help the youngsters. So it was different. So I was very clear in my head, okay, that is it. This is what I have to do. So I worked with children for about 5-6 years in different schools in a Montessori setup in Bangalore. And after that came a point where I wanted to understand curriculum development because I hated school so much. And I see that the children who would come to the Montessori setup loved school so much, so much so that even during our summer vacations, the parents would call up and it's like, they really want to meet. Can you come to some, some place somewhere so we can all meet? So that was really a surprise for me. I was like, who likes school was the thing in my head. So that changed my perspective, and I said that I thought I should really study more about what kind of curriculum actually should be built for certain age group. And the age group that I worked largely was 2.5 to 6 year olds, because that's the first category of Montessori. Level 1 we call it. So after that I in fact wanted to pursue some masters overseas. I got into very good universities, but due to many reasons I could not go. That is when life took a turn. You see, it had to happen. That's why. So, out of frustration, I kind of worked out too much. Oh, yeah. Parallelly, I must say that I was always into sports. I used to swim and row, and very briefly in my 20s, I used to box as well. So it was. I was a very outgoing person, very strong, very aggressive in my nature as well. So being in sports and all of this, yoga was invariably a part of the practice, as in the physical aspect of asana, not even with a mindful practice of asana, but bendy, stretchy, flexible thing. So I started yoga practice at the age of 5, because I skipped over that part. So yoga has been a part of my life throughout. My mother was my first teacher. So when I swam, my coach as well introduced a lot of these postures, and breath control was invariably an important aspect of swimming, especially being a sprinter. So that's how yoga and a kind of an understanding of breath became an integral part of my entire childhood and adulthood, I must say. So when that time came around, I was in my mid 20s then. This shift happened. I couldn't go to pursue higher studies for various reasons, and that is when I started working out way too much. And during the course of my training for swimming and rowing, I used to do weight training, and I had already sustained a couple of spinal injuries. So I had a slip disc and had a dislocated shoulder. That was because of misalignment during weight training. You know how enthused we are when we hit the gym when we are young, and it's like doing too much, and that is what happened. So during this break, I it was actually about a 6 months break, not like for years I was at home. So during that break, I was just so frustrated that I couldn't go to pursue what I wanted to do. I worked out to get out my frustration and anger, and I enjoyed myself again. I had a slip disc again for the second time in the same place, and I was in bed for a while. I could not move. All the depression came back. And the same questions as it is. There were a lot of questions about what to do with life, what's happening, and then all of these new challenges to cope with the physical injuries. So I was really kind of crestfallen. What should I do? Uh, I couldn't go back to what I was doing. I had already moved out of Bangalore. So that question, and it was actually my mother who insisted that, why don't you enroll yourself into a full-time yoga course somewhere? And she was trained by Vivekananda Kendra in the early 80s or late 70s. So she said that why not go to Vivekananda Kendra, Kanyakumari.
Yeah,
So
Kumran. Yeah.
yeah, and the minute I could actually sit up, I took my laptop and checked what courses were happening. So all of this happened around the month of June, July, and November end. There was a program called Yoga Shiksha Shibira in Vivekananda Kendra, Kanyakumari. I enrolled for that. It was supposed to be a 15-month retreat, and I went there, and all the things that were introduced, the first thing that kind of did something to me for my entire system was Veda chanting. It is an integral part of our shibiras in Vivekananda Kendra, that we wake up at 5 o'clock, 5:15. There is a prayer. Start with Pratasmarana Stotram. Having studied Samskrita, basic level in high school and college, I could understand a little bit of what Pratasmarana was, talking about. And Adi Shankara's composition, one of my favorite prayers even now. And followed by, they do something called as Aikya Mantra, and then followed by Bhagavad Gita chanting of Karma Yoga. And that was it. And that was the first day. The first thing that we did was chant, and something happened. I had tears in my eyes. And as I went through those 15 days, of course, many different aspects of yoga was introduced. Of course, the physical practice and also the philosophy. And I was like, okay, I'm home. I knew from there on that there was no going back from that path, and I continued from there on. So that's a brief introduction to how I transitioned into this, because my guru would always say pain is very important in life because it allows you to grow, it allows you to change. So all of that frustration, all of that anger, all of that sadness and pain, it got translated into something more important to seek, and that seeking kind of came there at that point in time. So that's
Wonderful,
it.
wonderful. From highly disciplined childhood, I think that laid the foundation in some way, thanks to your mother's contribution there, and
Absolutely. Yes.
perhaps you also being a very disciplined child as well. And I could imagine a child walking in the school gardens, wondering about the larger questions of life,
Yeah.
growing, swimming, boxing. Oh, I mean, it's been quite a journey from there till
Yeah.
yoga, chanting, everything. Okay, so when did you did mention that after your engineering graduation, you worked in corporate briefly. Walk us through that part. You did mention that you don't get to express yourself fully because most of us here in this forum are either
Mm.
working or family members of corporate professionals. So and of course, we take different paths and priorities in life. Some of us probably are so long in this journey of corporate life that I would rather not bring those questions. You know what I mean? So, in spite of a fulfilling job and career, there seems to be a sense of emptiness sometimes. Tell us what exactly you went through, which prompted you to look elsewhere and seek something else beyond the corporate job.
Okay. I mean, to name just a few things, I mean, a whole lot goes into it, and I was there for a very short time, so perhaps I'm probably not exactly a judge to what was happening, but my personal experience was there was a whole lot of unhealthy competition, and as there is a very clear hierarchy that is set, people misuse that hierarchy as well. And I'm not even talking in terms of some kind of mental abuse or something. I'm talking about how people are treated. It's extreme. I felt it was extremely fake. And I have always been a very expressive child ever since my childhood and young adulthood. So I could not connect to that life. And since there's a lot of competition, and the competition is always materialistic, right? And materialistic gains and wanting to climb the ladder faster. So, since I already had the question of what this life was, I did not know what it was. So it did not really fit into my bill, I can say. I mean, it works for a lot of people, right? You personally been there for some 2 decades, so for me it just did not. I kept asking, why am I doing what I'm doing? There are these very ridiculous deadlines that are set. It is important to accomplish them, but at whose cost? And I was extremely aware of the kind of compensation as well, the monetary compensation as well. It was not it was not in proportion to what they make and what they do, and they make us work so much. It somehow, the entire culture was getting too Western for me, and I was fairly modern at that point. Especially now, at least I appeared like this, with a tika and everything. But I wasn't necessarily like that. I had streaks in my hair and I used to ride a motorcycle, all of that. But what I mean is, something inside did not really gel with that kind of lifestyle. And we were very sold to the Western ideas of life. That itself, it did not sit well with me, because there are a couple of talks that I've heard by a few people that the more intellectual and the more intelligent we think we are, less we respect our own culture. And we think the West is better in that manner. And I have a lot of foreign nationals that come here to study chanting, in Mysore being a hub of yoga. And they all, one of them actually brought it to my notice. What West went through a couple of decades ago, India is going through that. People want to dress very fancy, they want to be this, they want to do that. Nowadays, if you just step out, we feel like, are people actually getting dressed to go somewhere? It's like, it was like that, overdressed for everything. And that brings about some kind of a formal appeal apparently for them. Why? Not at the cost of putting our own culture down. If one at least let their own culture be, then it's okay. But it is very actively putting one down and trying to be sold to the other. So that lady who came here, who's also a yoga teacher, that's what she very clearly said. We have already done it all and tried it. It has not worked. Yeah, we are just in extreme pursuits of materialistic gains, and we are coming to India to find the alternative. But it is unfortunate to see that most Indians are there. So that is exactly what I felt some 15, 18 years ago when I was there. And it didn't really sit well with me at all. And people, of course, I mean, people are people everywhere. We come across that people even here, because they say, right, karma won't let you go. You have to go through it. The only way is through. So it was very difficult for me to handle people. It is something I say even now. However, I think I have become a little more mature and conscientious when talking to people. Maybe because I was also very blunt and brash back then. I would argue with people basically, about these things, culture. And our education had already painted our history and culture in such a bad light that it felt guilty to embrace it.
Yeah.
Right? We naturally felt, okay, maybe being Western was cool, being Indian. And I don't think I've ever even put this bindi when I was working there, because I didn't want to be judged. But of course, things have changed a lot since then. And people who have continued to do all of these things, fantastic. But I was one of those confused ones initially. But obviously, I grew out of it because of something that was internally not agreeing with.
Wonderful. I take a lot of lessons here to be aware of your own inner voice and staying authentic to that inner voice and pursuing that track, irrespective of wherever the track is going to take us. Because many of us, I mean, I can speak for myself, following the herd, we say, uh, it just becomes almost an automatic existence of following the society, the path laid out by the society. So kudos to you for listening to your instincts and staying with that. And I have to bookmark a couple of points here for perhaps some future conversations, may not be today. One, when I see my son, who is 12-year-old plus in grade 6, scrolling through uh, the YouTube reels, mostly filled with YouTube stars and people who made it big quite early in their life and stuff. There's a lot of influence from the Western content. And one of my pursuits personally is to know more about our history, reinstate that pride in our legacy, the scientific legacy, the spiritual legacy, and then take it from there. But this 12 years is a very sensitive age. They're already I can clearly see the my son now versus 3 to 4 years ago. Significant shift. Now probably I've lost a bit of ability to influence, which was there quite earlier, right? So this is something that I would like to delve deep into sometime in the future. How do we engage with our kids? Perhaps chanting can play a role there. How do we attune? And also, if I explain anything without a scientific explanation to it, he won't buy it. Okay, so let's see. I mean, let's speak about it sometime in the future. How
Yes.
do we engage with our kids at different age groups in a way that we open them to learn more about our culture, our past, our history, our science, our legacy, etc., and then take pride in it because we become so apologetic about who we are, what our history has been. So I'll bookmark this point. Two, um, you kind of took bold decision at an early stage of your career. Okay, for some people maybe it's still a possibility. For some, there's no right or wrong time, but your instinct will be so strong that you will take a call about the future course of life. That's something I want to bookmark for a future conversation. Going
Absolutely.
ahead, you mentioned 15 months. Was it a 15 days or a 15 months course in Kanyakumari, Vivekananda Kendra?
15 days. 15 days was a
Okay.
retreat,
Okay.
which translated into a teacher training program, which is for 6 months, 1 month residential. Then we come back to our own places and conduct three different shibirs and go back for another 15 to 20 days to give exam and then, get certified if we pass the exam. Yeah, so
Okay.
that is how it was. That is exactly what I did in Kendra as well.
Wonderful. So I mean, visited Kanyakumari very briefly.
Hmm.
Vivekananda Rock. In fact, Vivekananda Rock, the library beneath the statue. So it played a significant role because when we went there, my wife pointed me towards Yoga Deepika, the BK Sanga's like
Hmm.
Light on Yoga, the Kannada version of that. And I started following that and practicing asanas based on that book initially.
Hmm.
And then we also took a tour of there's a beautiful museum of sorts where the
Ramayana
Ramayana
Darshanam.
and Mahabharata, yeah,
Yeah,
Ramayana.
Ramayana.
uh,
Ramayana Darshanam it's
yeah,
called. Yes.
very beautiful. Couldn't spend time in the rest of the
Hmm.
parts of Kendra, or perhaps sometime in the future.
Yes.
So what happened after that? So you completed teacher training and then,
Yeah. So, like I said, I never thought of yoga as a profession, and kind of still don't believe that I'm a yoga professional. Uh, it was never really to do that as a job. But after having completed the teacher training program, I performed well in my studies and I understood the concept, and mostly probably because I was a very disciplined student, they invited me back to teach in the same place, in the same course that I had taken up. So that is how my association with Vivekananda Kendra began. I went back year after year. That is basically every 6 months, there is a new batch. Every somewhere around April, May, and then November, December, there's a new intake of the batch. And that is where I started the journey. And even when my mentor told me that, you should come back and continue to teach here, I was surprised. It's like, I'm extremely new to yoga. How can I? He said, you will learn. And I did. I started kind of pestering some of the teachers there to teach me more. So we have a very long day during the retreats and these courses. Like morning 4:30, we all wake up. By 5 o'clock. There's prayer all the way till 9 o'clock in the evening. There is a break in the afternoon because it can be a very hot place, especially in the summers. So about 2 hours post lunch, there is break. But apart from that, it's a very tight schedule. And there's karma yoga, there is active cleaning and watering of plants, and massive halls we had to sweep and mop every day. All of that, and yet I would go sit in the office and wait for my teacher to come and teach me Yoga Sutra. That is where I first began. So 9 to 10, 10:30 in the night, I used to sit and study, then go back to the room, study some more, and wake up at 4 o'clock and come to class. So that is how the routine was for many, many months. Not consecutive months, but I used to go there in breaks because I was by then I enrolled for MSc program. My mentor suggested that do that MSc program from SVyasa. That'll give you a little sneak peek into what actually exists in the path of yoga. And I really embraced that MSc program, and I am fairly a quiet student. That way. Now I'm talkative, but as a student, I was quiet. So I would sit in the first row, do my thing, whatever. And then Vyasa campus is so beautiful. So I immediately, after my teacher training program, I enrolled into a MSc program in Vyasa. So I did it in distance. So we went there every 5, 6 months. spent a substantial amount of time there and would walk around the campus contemplating on all that was taught. And after that, there was really no turning back. I continued to go back to Kendra to help them with different programs. And after that, my mentor actually said, it is time that you do serious sadhana. And there was a very brief period that I spent in the Himalayas in the Ramakrishna tradition, that is Ramakrishna Ashrama tradition. There was somebody who was no longer in the ashram, in the mission, but had his own ashram. And I went and practiced there for 3.5 months. I stayed there, lived in that ashram, learned what meditation was, and explored different layers of the mind and studies, of course, all of that. And I continue to go to Himalayas to study now. So when I go there for studies, it is mostly Vedanta, and I have also started with the Shaddarshana, but my heart lies in Advaita Vedanta. So I continue to practice, I continue to study, and that is how this journey has been. And with respect to chanting, I have been, my first teacher also was from Vivekananda Kendra, another person from Ramakrishna Ashrama who had studied under a Swami from Ramakrishna Ashrama in the Krishna Yajurveda tradition. And she was a sannyasi. So I studied with her for a few years. And after that, I studied again in a Krishna Yajurveda Sampradaya because she was not in that place anymore, and I too moved out of Bangalore. So I had to change the teacher, unfortunately. And back then, online learning of the Veda was unacceptable. So it had to be with the teacher. And she was such a strict teacher, she wouldn't even let me have a book. It was just the very typical Karna Parampara call and response. So I studied Veda chanting with her along with Bhagavad Gita, and then I couldn't complete that. I mean, it takes years of study, so I had to change the teacher, but in the same tradition again. And I had to change the teacher for the third time because of me traveling continuously and not being able to stay in one place. Now I study for the last year or two from in the tradition of Challakere brothers. Guruji M.S. Srinivasanji is my teacher, and I have been studying under him, and it's mainly the Veda. So I still continue to study non-Veda scriptures. We will come to that, why it is important eventually. So that has been my journey. So it's like opening a Pandora's box, but it's like a whole lot of scriptures popped out of it. There was, I just got interested in everything. I found a Hatha Yoga teacher who practiced in the Himalayas, under whom I study Shaktaya Tantra and Hatha Yoga scriptures as well. And Advaita Vedanta in the Arshya Vidya Gurukulam of Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji. So I study Advaita Vedanta in that tradition. And in the Himalayas, that is Adi Shankara Brahma Vidya Peetham, I study Shaddarshana. There has been a little break, the samsara, we get caught up in the samsara, but yes, there's always time. And I do make that time yearly to go study there with my teacher, putting the laptop away, courses, or put on hold, phone away, everything just to study. So that is how currently I'm doing. I mean, this has been going on for the last this is the 8th year of immersion into this. And you did talk about that transition, right? I just want to, although don't want to elaborate on that, that phase was difficult, but what helped me was I really did evaluate my life. What was really needed for me to live a contented life, and what are the other things that I wanted. So when I made that very clear list of the needs, but against the wants, all that we want is not necessary, right? It is just a want. So I actually had a list of things that I needed to live a decent life. And when I moved, I actually very minimalistically set up the house, and that is before I got married. So I lived a very extremely minimalistic life. I also took to a uniform in my clothing because it did not require too much time to think of, especially with women's combinations and all that. We spend so much time in finding the right thing and colored and all that. So especially since I started studying in the Himalayas, the dress code was anyway white. So if I wear white, then everybody would think that something was off with me in when I came back to Mysore. So what I did was I would just wear some colored pants, whatever colored pants, and I would always wear a white kurta, and it is till date pretty much my class uniform. That way, I eliminate one layer of headache of finding and also shopping for it. Whatever that is white, just wear it. Why white? Well, in our tradition, anybody who is devoted to studies ideally wear white. And there are reasons to that, perhaps another time. So, this helped me, this way of analyzing and seeing what is really required against what are the things that I simply accumulated and wanted, helped me understand. And then the switch was easy. And since all the expenses dropped, I could live on smaller income. And then everything got resolved on its own. No headache anymore, no competition anymore. Even in the field of yoga, there is a lot of competition, right? A lot of them, before I moved to Mysore and started teaching a DTC program, when I was in Bangalore, somebody asked me once, um, why aren't you active on social media? People have been, including you, asking me this for a long time. It's just that that person told me, this is a competition. Whoever does it makes it. But I said that I don't want to compete. What if I don't want to compete? What if I am not interested in making it in their definition? Making it for me is to live a peaceful life, to be free. Why should I go by somebody else's idea of life? It was very difficult, because even at some point, even my family was like, what are you doing with your life? They can't always be supportive, right? They have to question so that it stokes something in us and we can change our perspectives too. So it was difficult, it was hard, but now today, when I look back on all of those things, even their negative reinforcements perhaps helped. I tell my mother, and my mother tells me today, I don't know how you made that decision, but your outlook to life is right. At the age of 71, my mother feels like I still feel like I'm bound by so many responsibilities and so many things that's happening. And I'm glad to see that you don't want to get caught up in that. So it was challenging. It took a long time. It took about 7 8 years for her to say that. That means it was 7 8 years of conflict for me. Right? So yeah, I think I cannot take all these credit at all, because I had wonderful mentors, wonderful teachers who wouldn't let me fall off my path.
Mm.
Constant reminders, constantly telling me, well, if you are a true mumukshu, you will do this, you will continue to persevere no matter what. And they would give me examples of all of these, Swami Vivekananda's life, I mean Swami Chinmayananda's life, Swami Dayanandaji's life. And we have amazing saints in our tradition. We need to read that stories. And next topic, or whenever we talk about how to introduce it to children, we will definitely get there at some point. All of this really helped me. I started reading Lives of Saints. In fact, there's a book called Life of Saints by Swami Shivanandaji of Rishikesh. It briefly talks about so many saints that have lived in this wonderful subcontinent of India and their lives, and that helped gain that perspective as well. You know what? This is how it has always been. There have always been fewer yogis. And one beautiful thing that my guru would always tell me, there are many yoga teachers and very few yoga practitioners.
Yeah.
So all of these things, even today, it comes to my head. It rings in my ears, and that helps me stay true. I have allergy to social media. I cannot bring myself to do much on it, but I should eventually. I will hopefully get there, because so we can reach out to more people. Not because I want to become popular. I mean, what does a yogi? I mean, it's funny when they say celebrity yogis, right? It's like an oxymoron. It doesn't work that way. A yogi is somebody who has already given up on the material world and who lives just to complete that person's prarabdha in a certain way to attain his own goal, right? So anyway, I will stop, otherwise I'll continue to talk there.
I know, there are so many threads I'm bookmarking mentally. I
Hmm.
really request you to grace this forum often so that we can have a deep dive conversation on each of those threads. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Sure, sure. No, sorry, I was just seeing a message. Yes,
yeah,
the thing
Tej
is,
has asked a
I
question.
still consider myself a student. I can definitely share a student's perspective to yoga journey, perhaps. I am not really at the level where I can give, more than that.
See, you won't know that, right? So we can see that. So Tej has asked a question to know a bit more about your personal life. I mean, family, current living place. I think so. Tej, she mentioned she lives in Mysuru with her husband. And anything more if you want to share, Sindhuraji?
Okay, so like I said, right now it has. I don't consider myself a yoga professional. However, I moved to Mysore. I used to live in Bangalore and take yoga therapy classes, especially after MSc. I did continue to do that, and I took about a year and a half's break simply to study, where I went to different ashrams, lived there, and study and practice. And after that, when I was still in the Himalayas and contemplating whether to come back, I got a call from an old acquaintance of mine saying that he was opening a residential yoga teacher training school in Mysore, and he would like for me to come and teach philosophy and chanting. And I took up that opportunity because I was still thinking, and my guru was like, no point in hiding and sitting here in the ashram. Go out there, you have to live out your life anyway. And I knew it wasn't for me to take sannyasa just yet, at least. I knew that I had to come back because ultimately I do have responsibilities towards my family. So I came back and I took up that job. Again, quite a bit of hassle to do that. Nothing is ever easy in the path of a sadhaka, it is said. So that's what brought me to Mysore. Although I'm born in Mysore, I've been in Bangalore for most part of my life, adult life. Then I came back to Mysore, and I started teaching TTC programs, philosophy and chanting, focused on those. And the after the COVID hit, the school wrapped up and everything was online. Now it is still run, but everything is online. So I couldn't do that, and also catering to a whole lot of states and Canada time. So that's like weird timing, teaching asana at 10 o'clock in the night, or getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to teach. I said, it's not going to work for me. If it was residential, then they would all come here, right? But now it was to cater to their time. So that's when, again, another big decision, because every time we leave a job, we quit a job or move to another, that see, being very open about these things, because we need financial support, right? So it is a huge decision to not take up that job just to make sure I'm getting a consistent stream of income. It was difficult again, but I also took that in my stride, and I said that it doesn't matter, I'll figure a way out. So I went to ashram to study one more text, and I came back and I started teaching chanting. And although I do not advertise, somehow people found me through word of mouth, and I still continue to teach chanting. Then in the year 2021 November, I got married, and I still continue to live a yogic life.
I have a question there, in fact. Before we switch gear towards the chanting journey, uh,
Huh.
feel free to narrate this at whatever depth of details you want to.
Okay.
You had every reason to live the life of a single sadhaka.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, this is the Himalayan segment is something that I want to delve deep into in probably another future podcast,
Okay.
because and that's fascinating, and I wish all of our members to know more about it. And yeah, so how did this happen? How did you decide to get into the Grihastha ashrama?
Okay. So although I am not big on Jyotisha, it is sannyasa was written in my Jyotisha after Grihastha ashrama. So, although even in fact, I suppose I can share it in your platform. The reason I could not even go pursue that master's that I was supposed to go overseas was also because of that reason, that, crossing the ocean was not allowed. And my mother, obviously, why would a mother knowingly that there'll be harm to the daughter, why would she send, right? So that's one of the reasons I didn't go. We don't follow it too closely, but take larger guidelines like this, because it helps gain perspective. Now, instead of me having to live in ashrams as a brahmachari but not able to take sannyasa, it is not easy. It is not easy even for that. We need to align with the tradition, either join a larger organization like Sharada Matha. I explored all of it. Indeed, I did. But organizations have their own framework in order for their smooth functioning, and it might not necessarily always suit the requirements of a mumukshu or a jijnasu, so it is not easy to take that plunge, and I did not want to do it at the cost of hurting my family either, because no matter what the personal kind of yearnings are, I had to really sit and think why I was going to do what I was going to do. And I took a lot of mentorship from different teachers, from different traditions. From Vivekananda Kendra, I had a lot of help in understanding it. My mentor from Kendra would always say that living on your own, either as a brahmachari, that is taking white, and brahmacharya is not simply saying that I've worn white and I'll do this, but there is a diksha even for brahmacharya. Brahmacharya Diksha should be taken, and then in Kannada we say Dikshe, otherwise in Sanskrit it's Diksha. So we'll have to take Diksha even for sannyasa, of course. And my mentor kept saying, it is not easy in this world, ma. Think about what you're doing. Very nicely he would sit me down and he would say these things. You don't need to rush into anything. And I was in my late 20s then. So don't do it. Give it some more time. Whatever frustrations, whatever that you have to face it ultimately, whether you're taking this path or the other path. And when I finally find my guru in the Himalayas, he would say the same thing. Ultimately, it's all different paths. That's it. And you think that just because you avoid the grihastha life will become easy? No, you will get more difficulties on the path as a sannyasi. You will have to go around with a begging bowl, because taking alms, especially in the Himalayan region, is still a mandate. Only few people who have established ashrams and who have taken that, they are going to be in one place and then continue their sadhana. Again, that means having to work with an organization. It's not easy. So I really did think about it, and I came to some understanding that, okay, perhaps I am trying to run away to avoid all of this. Yeah, so that I also have more time in hand to do the studies that I want to do. And when I thought about it, and when I met my husband, we met in Mysore, my husband and I. So that is when I realized, oh, if there is a person, I did not know a person like this existed. But if a person like this exists, then I don't think it is a problem. Then both of us will grow in the same path. He is not very much into philosophical studies, but I think he is already there, actually much ahead of me, if anything. So his understanding of life, his responsibility towards the family, and giving me this freedom at whatever time I get up in the morning, and we work around our classes. That's how it is. And it is not saying that, he has to sacrifice big for me to do this. I think we are balancing out. So to let you know what I actually do in Mysore, apart from teaching chanting, currently it's just chanting, because that is something I have taken up as a purpose for myself, to spread this chanting. Apart from that, we are very regular people running different businesses, struggling our way through life. As in, we run B&Bs, and we own a specialty coffee shop. Still very, very regular, hassle of everyday life. And apart from that, one thing I would like to share here, since my guru said that whatever path you take, ultimately the goal is the same. If you're a mumukshu, even in your brahmacharya life or grihastha life or vanaprastha life or sannyasa life, the pursuit is the same. It's not going to change. But how we behave in whatever situation or whichever ashrama of life we are in is what is most important. Ultimately, that's the reason I kind of live by the injunctions of Advaita Vedanta, the objectivity that it gives, right? If you understand that my life is not work and making money alone is not the purpose of life, we do it so that we can sustain and do things that we really want to do. When that clicked in my head, I wasn't afraid to get married anymore. I wasn't afraid to take on responsibilities of my extended family, my mother-in-law and grandmother, or any, the siblings, all of that come with the package. I was not scared anymore. I was not overwhelmed by the idea that, oh, I have to now integrate with the new family. What will I do? None of those things happened. I was very clear. And that's actually one thing I wanted to do before I got married. I didn't want to get married as an escape of something else and then probably regret. Instead, I was very clear in my head. I told my mother, I'm not getting married just so your society expects it or you expect it, ma. She's a single parent, therefore I mostly refer to her. I will get married when I am ready, when I know what I want with my life. And I did figure it out. That is one thing I can say as a sadhaka. I am very clear in my head as to at least I know what I don't want. My guru would say that if you don't know what you want, it's okay, but at least chalk out all the things that you don't want. That way, you will not even turn your head to that and just look back and worry about it later. Be done with whatever you don't want. So our life, my life before I got married itself, lifestyle was so minimalistic. I had already said goodbye to a lot of groups of friends. I lost a lot of friends in the bargain because I was a spoiled sport. I couldn't go out anymore and hang out in their sense of the word. So life changed very drastically. Therefore, it was important that I focused on what I wanted to do. If I could not have that, ultimate goal, of course, moksha, whatever, but in the interim, what do we do? So I borrowed the motto of Ramakrishna Ashrama, Atmano mokshartham jagat hitaya cha. While you are in the pursuit of your own moksha, uh, do something good for the world. That's it. So right now I live in that very simplistic state of mind. Let me just do whatever I can do to help others, also make a living out of it, because ultimately everything comes at a cost in this life, and whatever is cheap is not appreciated. And also lot of sacrifice, lot of studies and effort has gone into whatever we do, correct? Just the way you have all developed skills for decades, and that is why you're compensated in a certain way. So I am very much aware of the world. I do not live in a bubble. I accept world for what it is by keeping true to the shastra. That's it.
Lovely, there's so many points as you are narrating, and I wish I had this much of clarity growing up in childhood, and when you make so those important phases of life. Uh, well, I can only say that probably taking these lessons, sit in retrospection, and then reflect on the life gone by and the juncture of life we are in right now, and then apply that maturity right now for the future. So that's all I could say at this point.
Yeah.
Really, thank you for, Tej, thank you for asking this question. See, it brought out so many inner layers of your life. Thank you so much for sharing those, Indiraji. And there are a couple of questions and points, but we'll come to that later, Aarti and Sajanji. Going ahead, switching gears now. Whatever you went through, I'm sure some of us are feeling like, oh, I wish I followed the life like this, how you did, Sindhoraji. So some of us must be thinking on those lines now. Now, for now, I probably be the representative of the group here. Most of the folks here are working professionals in different industries or family members of working professionals in this forum. Though there are about 20, 26 people in this call, expect a few hundred people to watch this podcast after this. So on their behalf, on my behalf, and everyone's behalf in Corporate Seekers, the phase of life we are in, either as a working professional or as a family member, how do we apply all these insights through the dimension of chanting, right? Because at least in my limited understanding of the spiritual landscape, and how, as you beautifully said, and how to blend that into the material world and still walk a path of balance, peacefulness. From a dimension of chanting, which is one of the dimensions of this large landscape, but I would say one of the prominent dimensions of this landscape. How can we apply the principles of chanting, the path of chanting, in a way it is practical for us? For example, most of us, though we say the cliched term of 9 to 5, it's never 9 to 5, right? It's work is the significant part of our lives, right? So how can we uh, embrace the path of chanting in our lives in a way as a beginner, you know for someone who is into the field of yoga pretty much full time as a path, as you said yourself. So may not be to that extent. Maybe someday down the line that might be a calling. However, right now where we are, how can we embrace chanting as a way of life? If you could throw some light on it.
Okay. Before that, I would like to just address one thing. In the retrospect, everything seems different, but I'm sure everybody has taken the decision that was right for that point in time, right? So no need to cry over spilt milk. We should only look forward in these things, I feel. Spirituality is not about being emotional. It is a very intellectual process. That is why jnana yoga is the path that requires a lot of thinking. We think that it's Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana alone is Jnana Yoga, but the correction, the notional correction in Vijnana Maya Kosha, what we talk about in the Panchakosha module, it is notional correction at that level. That is why. Because if that switch goes once, then we set. But lot of conditioning, lot of studies need to go into it until that switch happens. So coming to why I have a few slides to present, I will actually, because I have been developing chanting, keeping chanting in mind as a main sadhana. It not necessarily be main sadhana for everybody, but how one could benefit from chanting. Apart from all the roles of chanting that I've already talked about, chanting to me became important because during all of these phases, it wasn't an easy phase. It wasn't an easy transition. It was tough. And in all these times, it was chanting that came to my aid. Although I had received Diksha mantra from my guru, it was impossible to sit and do the japa. When the mind is flustered, when the mind is scared, when there are unforeseen situations that are coming your way, it is not that easy to sit down and meditate. We can pretend to sit down, pretend to breathe, or even focused breathing is possible, but mind is in 100 places wandering. That is why I found chanting as a wonderful tool to control my mind. It's like there's a lot of thoughts here. I bring the mind to focus here, at least that. And the content of chanting itself is so beautiful. After you force yourself initially, I mean, I forced myself to chant initially, and I would be huffing and puffing because my mind was still agitated. But I would chant the Bhagavad Gita. And suddenly I would get emotional because we still understand most Indian languages, although we are not experts in Sanskritam, we understand a lot, right, as we read it. And sometimes I would have tears, especially in the first chapter of the Gita itself, when they describe Arjuna. Invariably I choke up and tears start to flow down. So sometimes, isn't that better than sitting and worrying forever? And when we are that agitated, it's not possible to always put your mat out and practice asanas. Pranayama doesn't help, dhyana, dharana doesn't help, asana also doesn't help. So, what else helps? What is it? It was my search. This is how I got into it so full time now. So for the last 7 years, I have been chanting and also teaching simultaneously because that is in our tradition. Whatever we study, once the guru feels that we have learnt it well and we have the capacity to teach it to others, they will give us permission. There are no certification courses for these. So when my teacher asked me to start teaching it to others is when I started. And it was Yoga Sutra, it was Bhagavad Gita, and a whole lot of stotras. I'll tell you why stotras are important. When I was in the Himalayan region, there is a practice. Every morning they do arati to Ganga, yeah, and they chant the Ganga Stotram. I had no idea it was that beautiful. I did not even know it. And they chant. When I was in the Kedarnath region, they used to chant Shiva Panchakshari Stotram. So beautiful. And I lived in that valley for 3.5 months. And every morning in the Ukhimat, when they started the puja, I could hear it on the other side of the valley. And that was transcendental for me. I used to have goosebumps, and I would just sit with my eyes closed, and my entire being would feel elevated, and in that region especially. Then I understood the strength that stotras have. Until then, being, a person of the mind, of the head, I would always think that, oh, Veda chanting, because it's so technical, only Veda chanting does it. Vedas are another level. Absolutely. I give it its due credit. It is wonderful. But we should not forget the stotras, because that is what connects us to our culture. Yeah, Vedas are harder to understand. Stotras are easy to understand. Therefore, it's easier to connect to it. Yeah, and there are varnane, the personification and characterization of so many deities. Because even I had that question: why do Hindus have so many deities? Why? Only when I started studying, I slowly, started coming across as like, oh, that's why. So all of these things are absolutely important, and it also kind of answers how you can introduce it to children. Right now, my mission is that, and I will share the slide and what is this journey that I have envisioned for others
Sure.
who want to pursue this path. So, the journey always begins with understanding of the basic Samskrita words and pronunciation, correct pronunciation, because ultimately we live in we live in the world of energy, and the transaction is energy. We say vibing nowadays, but what creates that energy here is the vibration through the sound. So correct uchcharane, the correct pronunciation of it is absolutely important, because ultimately our goal is to chant the Veda. A lot of people jump straight from introduction to Veda. I personally don't see why they can't study something else in between, because that way, what happens is Veda are a very technical text, right? It has very complicated words, because the Samskrita in Veda is Vaidika Samskrita. What we normally use is Samanya Samskritam. And instead of jumping from 0 to 10, there's a path in between, and we can traverse that path, because this will give us a lot of perspective into our Shastras, lot of insight into what it has to share, what it has to say. So the Chanting Foundation Intensive, it is an intensive program indeed, because this is not simply learning a few words and few lines to rant away in a day, right? It is not just you get it over with by chanting da 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 something and I'm done for the day, but it is to spiritualize one's life, to divinize every aspect of every day. So upon waking up, there is a prayer, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi. I'm sure you all know that. You might all feel that, these are such simple prayers. I can learn it from YouTube. uh, I don't know if it works, because chanting is normally in a tradition, and correct pronunciation and a lot of nuances go into chanting. I'm sure those who have attended the previous webinar understand that now. Shuklam Bharadaram is such an easy and a common prayer, but how did we pronounce it in the last class, right? So in this chanting foundation, there will be very detailed understanding, not from the Samskrita grammar perspective, but application to chanting perspective, very clearly, learning the pronunciation. And Samskrita is such a technical language. We need to understand the place of vocalization in the mouth, and the placement of the tongue, use of mouth in different, variations. So that will be taught through prayers. Yeah, because we can't possibly cover all the rules first. You will be overwhelmed with the number of rules that exist. So we will be introduced to some of them initially, the basic ones that are needed, and then learn a set of prayers and keep implementing these rules in those prayers. And one stotra will be introduced, and 1 or 2 japas will be introduced in the foundation course. Why only this much? If you feel only this much, it's not only. The thing is, the idea is to implement it in your everyday life. I'm sure you all probably mutter a prayer before eating, right? Bhojana mantra is needed. Yeah. Do we say it correctly? Do we say it with complete surrender to that prayer, or meaning that prayer? Brahmarpanam is such an intense prayer. If we all did that, I think we will be elevated in no time. Yeah, it is very, very intense. And even either Annapurna prayer or Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva, all of that, they all really have such deep meaning. The point is to learn to chant them correctly first and start applying it in your everyday life. As you learn them immediately, you pop up in the morning, you wake up, sit up on the bed, say that prayer. Getting down from the bed, say that prayer. That is how we acknowledge. That is how we learn to live a conscientious life as spiritual sadhakas, right? So that is the point of this chanting foundation, and it is going to be for probably 6 weeks or even more, probably up to 7, 8 weeks. I will tell you what the course curriculum of this is in a bit. Now, you see, something is very parallelly planned, that is the chanting as a lifestyle, and the last bottom here in an arrow. So, chanting, I have divided it into two. For those who want to pursue chanting as sadhana, what is it that we normally chant, right? So, in our tradition, the first thing as sadhana that is introduced as chanting sadhana is Sahasranamas, Vishnu Sahasranama and Lalita Sahasranama. And it normally takes quite a long time to learn to chant it perfectly. Yeah, and this is why it is so beautiful that in the Dhyana Shloka, you say Parayane or Dhyane or Jape Viniyogaha, it comes in Vishnu and Lalita both. So that is actually the intent. If you're saying Jape, you do japa of it a couple of times. If you do Parayane, we normally do Parayane because we don't do over and over again. If we do it over and over again, then we do Jape, no? So, Dhyane, then towards the end of Sahasranama, you sit down with your eyes closed, right? You contemplate on whatever words or description of God comes to you, right? So, this becomes an important aspect of sadhana. And parallelly, Swadhyaya. Why Swadhyaya? Most of us also want to get an insight into the philosophy that's embedded in these chapters, right? So Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra, since most of us are in the path of yoga, it makes sense to study these texts. So if it is Bhagavad Gita, we can pick 1 or 2 chapters which are shorter so that you learn to chant it technically. Like 12th and the 15th chapters have just 20 shlokas, but it takes quite some time to learn to utter the words and with all the conjunctions and all the rules perfectly. And Yoga Sutra also is done. I mean, this is my vision to introduce chanting in this particular order. Now, if there are people who are interested in doing both, they can, and you can also choose, right? If you want to focus more on the sadhana aspect, then there'll be Sahasranamas that will be introduced after the foundation course. That let's call that as, if I'm calling the foundation course as level 0, level 1 would be either chanting sadhana or Swadhyaya or both. Now, the next level would be, like I said, stotras. I'm sure most of you here are householders, and you would probably want your family members, or if you have children, then for them to know what these stotras are. And we have so many stotras, so very many. I don't even know if it is a possibility to put a number on it. Yeah, and we will start addressing them. And how will we address them? So this continuation of sadhana in the third column that you see, the stotras, will be useful in this last line, you see, chanting as a lifestyle. Ultimately, the goal is to incorporate chanting as an integral part of sadhana into our lifestyle, right? So this festival-based chanting. A lot of the reason I have been thinking about this chanting as a lifestyle was a lot of the students, Westerners, okay, not even Indians, they would ask me, there are so many festivals in India, what can we chant during that time? So there was a student from Russia who came to Mysore and studied. She stayed in our house and studied for 2 months. And after she went back, she continued to study for 6 months. Now she has taken a break because it's a lot to study. She's the one who actually started asking me about this. Sindhoora, there are so many things here. Can you teach me? Because Ratha Saptami is coming up, right? It is a puja for Surya Deva. What can we chant? We can chant Surya Ashtakam or Aditya Hridayam. See, this is how we make our entire lives, not simply that 1 hour or 2 hours a week that I spend in chanting class. This is how we spiritualize our lives by bringing those elements. Now, if you, Manjunath ji, if you did this at home, do you think your son would not follow?
Yeah, in fact, I must mention
Yeah.
that gradually, in fact, this is, thank you for asking this prompt. Uh, Somewhere subtly, he's kind of gradually taking up what I'm doing every day. Gradually.
Mm. See,
All I
yeah,
need to perhaps do is to show up and do myself, and then
absolutely.
rest will follow, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because Dr. Montessori, since I studied the Montessori system of education, she said that children are like sponges. You know, be careful what you put them into, right? Whatever you expose them to, they will absorb it. Expose them to this, they will absorb it. Whether they will actively learn all of this and chant immediately, not sure, but those impressions will be there. Same thing happened to me. I was never a saint. I don't want to come out as like I was a saint all my life. No, I was a very typical, 20-year-old, aggressive, trying to explore things, all of that. But the impression stayed. What my mother instilled in us as a young girl, that is what stayed, right? So similarly, that is why this continuation of the sadhana, learning different stotras, Annapurna stotra, and there are so many stotras on Mahalakshmi. We celebrate Varamahalakshmi or another Lakshmi Puja during Deepavali or Diwali. So you can chant it during that time. So invoking. So what happens is you are actually bringing in that element into your everyday life over and over again. And chanting as a lifestyle is something that we will do as a community event as well. So whatever we learn in these practices, Sahasranamas, Lalita Sahasranamas, or even the Stotras, during those events, Navratri comes 4 times a year. The most commonly celebrated one is mostly the Durga Navratri, that is the Dasara, but Ramanavami also in some places. But there are other two Navratris as well, and we should start following all of them because that way we will be oriented to our culture and most importantly sadhana. All of these pujas, all of these festivals, all of them, the beauty of the placement of Navaratris, 4 quarters exactly spaced as per the changes of the season. Why? So that you reorient yourself. Do a spiritual sadhana for those 9 days. How beautiful! Even I was surprised. I did not know there were. I only learned it there were like 4 5 years ago that there are four Navratris. When I started studying the Tantra, because in Tantra they use one of the Guhya Navratris, the secret Navratris. Not many people know about, or commonly not celebrated. Rather, it's mostly for very staunch sadhakas. So all of these are going to be introduced. Perhaps not the vratas because we don't follow like a very Jyotisha calendar with the vratas, but festivals, definitely Indian festivals. The entire calendar will be published way in advance, so you know what festivals are coming up, and based on that we will learn all the stotras and start applying it, as chanting as a lifestyle. That was the point. And continuing of Swadhyaya, those who are interested in learning to chant the entire Bhagavad Gita, we have Gita Jayanti, isn't it? So hopefully one day we can sit and chant the entire 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. That is a sadhana. See, that ability to sit down for that extended period of time. You have no idea the demand on the breath control that is needed to chant that much. Even the Sahasranama, the voice will be gone. And like I always tell my husband after a chanting class with my guru, we normally have it for 90 minutes. It's like I sweat more in chanting class than I do in asana class. It's because of the energy that is produced, the urja that is produced, and invariably it happens because chanting is extremely powerful. And eventually the Veda, right? And that will be the right progression, in fact, because you are not only simply learning something and just leaving it in the book. My guru always says this, so I repeat this even this time. It should not be pustaka to pustaka, it should be mastaka to mastaka. It needs to be registered in the mind and apply it there. Pustaka is book, right? So before, he would say, since it was all in Karna Parampara, invariably everybody would learn it, memorize it, and it would naturally come when you stand in front of your altar. All the prayers would flow out. But now it's all pustaka. We need help of pustaka. But it's okay. Instead of evolving, we have probably devolved a little bit. But what he says is our aim, since we're also starting a little late in life, young age, it's easy to memorize everything. Right now, the aim is to, with the support of the text, we must be able to chant perfectly. That's all. Yeah, because words have meaning, and those words must be pronounced correctly. As simple as that, right? Now, I'll go
Few
on to the
questions
next
here,
point. Yes,
Sindhoora.
yes,
See, the title of the podcast is Chanting Journey for Holistic Growth,
yes.
right? So, for example, different people seek different things. And for most of us in the Grihastha ashrama with, spouses and kids and parents, I know a lot of responsibilities, jobs, etc. So, I'll speak for myself and request others to put in the chat, what dimensions you want me to address along with you. So one is, of course, the physical dimension, the physical health, fitness, being disease free, gaining strength and flexibility in the body. Of course, there are other dimensions, but from a chanting point of view, okay, physical dimension. Second is the prana dimension. You touched upon prana dimension pretty prominently. Third, the mental dimension. Now, how through this journey we can enhance our mental abilities.
Mm,
You did touch upon these briefly in the previous podcast, the webinar.
right.
Plus,
Mhm.
the material aspect of it. Okay, you know, for me, I can speak that at this phase of life, there is definitely a higher need of Lakshmi to be showered in life, along with other dimensions. So, can we attract both non-material wealth as well as material wealth holistically? That's what I mean, holistically. And also in terms of, let's say, career progression, for example, okay, or progression in any endeavor that we take up. So how does the spiritual aspect, the scientific aspect of it, in any way that you can explain, how will this journey help us achieve progression in our holistic growth across all these dimensions that I mentioned?
Okay, so I will approach this with a Vedantic perspective again. In Amrita Bindu Upanishad, there is a line, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayah. Yeah, Mana, mind, is the reason, or Mana eva manushyanam karanam. Yeah, it is the reason and it is the instrument which binds us and liberates us. So, if we are addressing the physical and the spiritual aspects of it, everything is in the mind, correct? So if we are tuning ourselves into a certain frequency over and over again every day, mind will definitely have an effect on the body, right? Wherever you intently and intensely make a sankalpa, whether it is to invite Lakshmi or Saraswati or whatever your Ishta Devata, don't you think that will actually manifest? It will. It will. Because the Sankalpa is very strong, and that is why we use Sankalpa in prayers, in spiritual practices. It is like sowing a seed in a Yoga Nidra introduction. Swami Satyananda Saraswati ji from Bihar school says that Sankalpa is very, very strong, and you sow that seed in the subconscious mind, right? As in the phase of Yoga Nidra, it is that is sown in the subconscious mind, and that stays and it manifests through the layers of mind. Similarly, in chanting, as you chant more and more, you will feel that after some time there is a state where you are not very actively chanting, which is kind of leading to ajapa, right? So we will see as we go through the course, all of that aspect of chanting, japa, ajapa, all of that will be addressed, because, like I said, this is a spiritual practice, right? It is not simply to learn a text and simply to chant it. I would still say that mind is the instrument that we use to accomplish whatever we want in this life. Physical health, like that is why we have psychosomatic diseases, right? Disorders, rather. So, mind gets purified, mind gets focused, and by chanting, we eliminate a lot of other unnecessary thoughts and worries and anxieties from the mind, because it is always staying in a beautiful state of focus. And for that focused mind, you give anything, it will take, right? So I use chanting as that specific to control my mental fluctuations, to eliminate all the worries and anxieties of the world, of everyday life. And then once it is focused, then you make a prayer. You make a prayer in the beginning, you make a sankalpa in the beginning, and once it is beautifully focused, you whatever is needed. It's like basically affirmations. See, affirmations and all these things are not new to our culture. Sankalpa is affirmation.
How to ask actually, the West
Yeah.
has been popularizing
Yeah,
affirmations.
yeah. We see, honestly, I think any knowledge that is in any part of the world must be in India too. I feel that, Shastras, we haven't just explored them enough, perhaps. So, Sankalpa is very much that. And whatever is needed for you to accomplish in this life right now, or rather in this phase of life, we do that. And chanting all of these things, like Sahasranamas and stuff, it's impossible to say the meaning, and also they have a much deeper meaning than the word meaning that you can just read on your own. I can perhaps recommend a few books. There are some beautiful commentaries written on these Sahasranamas. Such things I can help with. I can also take help from my teacher, and if I don't know something, I will clarify with this group. But you talked about physical health, mental well-being, all of that will be naturally covered in this, right?
Mm.
I hope I'm answering, because I'm not going into every line to answer it,
Yeah.
because it is holistic in nature as it is. That is why prayer and the japas and doing puja has always been a part of our lives. It's just that it is sometimes, forgive me for saying this, but sometimes I feel ridiculous to justify it. Because it is already a way of life. Our way of life, our true culture is that. Why would we wake up in the morning, have a bath, and light the lamp? You're oriented. Whatever sankalpas you had to make for the rest of the day, by through those chants, by connecting with your personal deity, or the hundreds of pictures we have in our altar, you choose to connect with whatever you want. And that is why we have Ganesha. Invoke Ganesha's help and blessings if you are starting something new that day. Yeah, Ganesha, please let there be no obstacles today. Help me go through this, wade through this phase of life. Saraswati or Lakshmi, I'm going into this particular business. That is why, we need to use our gods to take help from. We have them available right there. So we just need to connect them. Instead, what we are doing, Swami Vivekananda said one thing very beautifully, we are beggars. We are constantly begging God. Give me that, give me this, give me this. We are not developing a direct connection with them. So he
Mm.
says that in a specific context. I do not recollect the entire story, but this, because every time I go to the temple, I do not ask anymore. I thank. This is something I consciously practice, not simply saying this, consciously saying, give me the ability to go through all that comes my way. And thank you for whatever you've given me so far. I think that covers everything. Why specifically ask, oh, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, I'm making a huge investment. Not needed. Give me that dhairya, that dedication, that courage to go through things, right? So that is what we will build up to. If we are working on that specifically, we will build up to that through all of this, because that surrender needs to come. I was not a bhakta. It didn't come to me easily. It came to me over a long period of time with very conscious practice. I could not connect to God or gods. I could not. So I will tell you about this in another conversation, perhaps. But what I'm trying to say is, we do not need to oversell this or pitch this as anything, because it is what it is. I am very clear about that when I say this, because chanting has always been an integral part of our tradition. You're all seekers. So, therefore, I say this very openly. If you have come here today, or if you plan on listening to this later today, it is because you are already looking for something. If you weren't, you wouldn't be here, right? And we have it all available to us. And thankfully, because of the lineage of gurus who have kept this alive for us, we should be ever grateful to them that we can use this to manifest what we want. We can use this to apply it into our own practices and into our lives, so that we can enrich our lives, right? You talk about a prosperous family, a happy family, and a prosperous Bharata. If we do not do this, if I have to sit here and try to sell it so much, it's not worth it. It is not a prosperous Bharata. It is just a financial transaction. And I have no intention of that, right? And coming from Ramakrishna Ashrama and the Vivekananda Kendra family, I'm a representative of that in the Karnataka State Chapter IYA. I become a tool that is used in their purpose as well, right? So we should, I feel personally, if you are seekers, you should really look inward. We don't need to go outside to find all of these fancy practices. It is all here, right here. We are only rediscovering it, and whatever suits you. Having said all of these things, not necessarily be a person's go-to practice. It is not easy. And for some who find it difficult to pronounce, either they can take it as a challenge. Am I audible? I think my
Yes.
internet was unstable for a while.
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, all right. So you can either, yeah, sorry. You can either take it as a challenge and work through it. That is the reason I'm not introducing Veda right off. It's a multiple layer then, you know. You already have pronunciation issues and add swara to it. We need to have that keen ear, and not all of us, even I am not musically trained. So it just complicates, and it also frustrates a lot of people. I have actually seen it as well. So we will focus on what needs to be done at this point in time and grow gradually. We cannot go 0 to 10 ever. It's not possible. We
How do we
have
make a start?
How do we make a start is definitely with this chanting foundation intensive. So the fundamentals or the foundation course that we call this, the curriculum, like I mentioned already, we have to go through the Sanskrita alphabet, and I will walk you through all of that in a very simplistic way where you can understand and implement it immediately in the set of prayers that we learn. And these prayers themselves will start giving you a semblance of grounding as you go forward, you know, because with every aspect that you're trying to do in like throughout the day, having a bath, there is a prayer. So bath is a very auspicious thing in our tradition, you know. So we invoke all the jalas, you know, the vibrations of different rivers in that jala, and we have bath. It is such a purifying thing, you know, each time when you bathe in those waters. So I will walk you through all of it. Before eating, we are mindful of what we are eating, not just stuffing food into our mouths by watching TV, right? So it is a conscientious life again. So like this, there'll be different prayers that will be introduced, and through the prayers, the rules of chanting will be introduced. Japa and what are the different types of japa, that introduction will take a couple of classes alone, and we will also learn a few japas. I will be sharing one or two either Vedic or non-Vedic japas. Japas are not everybody can connect to a japa quickly. Okay, it takes some time. That is why we normally go by the Diksha mantra or Ishta Devata japa. All that will be discussed in that class. And Stotram, since beginning of the year, it is always Surya Deva. Even during Sankranti, we actually say Surya Deva prayers, right? Aditya Hridayam or something will be chanted. And Ratha Saptami is for Surya Deva anyway. So that will, something based on Surya, like a Surya Stotra will be introduced as it is the beginning. And in addition to this, what you're going to get is a sneak peek into what are the rules that exist in chanting based on tradition. I have not studied many traditions. It is a decades of study pending. My teacher, of course, has. And whatever I study right now in the tradition of the Challakere brothers is what I will be sharing when it comes to rules of chanting, because it changes from region to region, pratishakha to pratishakha. All right. And introduction to sadhana, chanting as sadhana, chanting as svadhyaya, and chanting of lifestyle, whatever I mentioned before. All of that will be separately offered as a masterclass with examples. How you're going to include it or inculcate it into your everyday life. That will be introduced as well. And certain other features, of course, you will get a digital workbook. I request whoever signs up for this course to print it and keep it ready so that you can mark. You know, you should always sit with a glass of water, pen or a pencil. I prefer pencil so that I can erase it later. Otherwise, your book will look like full of marks towards the end of it. So I will send all those instructions for those who enroll for the course. And this is normally taught in a call and response method. Those who attended the webinar saw last time that I took Manjuji's help It's like, I'm going to teach one line and then repeat it twice. That is the format of learning in the tradition in the whole of the country. Yeah. So that is what will be followed. And whoever has registered for the class will receive all the corrections through this process. And the entire family is welcome to come and sit with you for the course. All right. I see even here, two people were sitting in some, one of you had logged in. I really appreciate it. I encourage it, in fact. Yeah. Have your spouse or children or parents or grandparents, whoever is there in the house, if they want to come and sit in for the course, most welcome. Only one request, it'll only be a single login, whoever is registered for the course, because it's impossible to give corrections to all of them, right? So that is something I want to bring it to your notice. And all the chants will be recorded and uploaded on the LMS, and you will have access to the chants, the prayers, whatever is taught. You can listen to it whenever you want. You'll have the access for an entire year. Recordings of classes, however, will be made available to the end of the course, because if you are not able to catch up on this course, you cannot go further. It's going to be very difficult to make corrections on the most basic of things. Therefore, whoever signs up, I'm sure, we all have commitments, and sometimes we end up missing classes. It's okay, but until the end of the course, and perhaps I'll extend it by another week, you can make sure that you have completed this course before getting into the next one, so that you have the groundwork really firm. The foundation is really good. That's it. And a certificate of completion will be shared. It's always nice to get a certificate towards the end of a course, a sense of accomplishment. I actually put in this effort and time, and I have actually reaped a result. So for that purpose, we'll be sharing this as well. And I would like to give this access. For example, let's say the timing is not working out for somebody, and or the routine has changed and you're catering to a different work process, whatever, time zone. So for that person, if they would like to repeat this foundation course, you have access to that. All right, you can join in for that course free of cost, but corrections will not be given there. If you have missed out on a class, you have attended the, you have rerun that class through the recordings, but still, if you feel like you would like to attend a live session, you can join any of the future one session you can join. I mean, the entire course you can be a part of, but corrections will not be given, right? Okay. So all these things that you are actually going to study and learn comes definitely at a very higher cost. But Manjunath ji has requested that, he really wants to introduce it. This is the course that I offer even for our students who come here. I receive students from all over the world. And this is something that we have been doing. And the master classes are a bonus that I'm introducing for this group, this particular group. So the value is actually 9999, but Manjuji has requested that we give you a good offer, so it'll be available for 4999, and I'm sure he will share some other details based on the Seekers Hub has a coupon. So he's going to offer something for all of you, so you can sign up. And this is going to be, I say 6 weeks plus, because it can be for 2 months. It might run for 8 classes, 8 consecutive weekends, Saturday, Sunday mornings mostly. So this fees will be for entire 2 months and an intensive learning of all the things mentioned and listed here. If you have any questions, you are feel free to ask now.
Thank you, Sindhoora ji. We'll take a bunch of questions and then we'll discuss few things.
Sure.
Those people who are interested to walk this journey. So initially, as I said, it would have been very conducive and probably more impactful for me to go in person, because I live in Mysore, in the same city as Sindhoora ji. I feel this has been designed in my life. It's been 2.5 years since I relocated to Mysore, just post-pandemic. And I got to meet you only very recently. So I'm sure there's a divine design to this. So however, in the interest of the larger group, I thought I'll go through this online mode with all the other seekers, and then perhaps meet in person down the line. So those people who would like to avail the opportunity of learning together, please click on this link that I'm going to send in the chat window. It's a bit.ly shortened link, and use the coupon. It's in the this bit.ly link will lead you to a Tag Mango link of Sindhoora ji. That's where she has hosted her program. There you will see the price as 9,999. However, use this coupon code called Seekers so that you translate that to a special price. There might be a small convenience fee applied by the platform, and then go ahead and register. I took the privilege of being the first one to register yesterday night when Sindhuraji shared the link. So one seat has already been taken out of 25 seats. So because this involves individual call and response corrections in every single class, it's important that we keep the batch size limited to about 25 people. So go ahead and register. I have requested Sindhuraji to keep the link open for some time through this weekend, based on first come first serve basis. As soon as the batch fills up, she will close the registrations. So while I'll share this link in the corporate seekers WhatsApp community as well. A couple of things. I'll run through some of the comments in the chat section. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll take the questions now. I'll go one by one. So Tej, we addressed your question. Thanks for your question. It really gave good insights into Sindhuraji's life as well. Shailendraji is asking timings of the class. So I ran a poll a few days ago. Thursday, Friday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. IST was one of the option. And Saturday, Sunday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. IST was the second option. I think if I remember it correctly, I think 8 to 10 of you preferred Thursday, Friday evening IST slot, and about 36 of you preferred the Sunday 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. IST slot. So we'll go with the majority of the vote. So we'll keep the sessions on 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. IST on Saturdays and Sundays, starting from 2nd March, as Sindhuraji mentioned in the slide. So 2nd March is a few weeks from now. We worked on different dates and then we finalized at 2nd March. So Shri, you are moving to Australia for work reasons. I'm interested, but need your suggestion on whether the timing works out for me. Thanks in advance. See, Australia, Sunday, you will be having, it's kind of a pre-lunch time for you. 6 a.m. IST will be afternoon. So don't worry. Shri, I would strongly recommend that go for it. Okay. Because this is one philosophy I have always followed in my life. If I feel my intention is authentic and the opportunity is in front of me, I close my eyes and pursue the opportunity. Even though the journey might be slow, fluctuating, all those are mental reasons. Okay. Jyoti ji is asking, will the meaning also be elaborated along with the shlokas? Yes. It's not just pure chanting. Sindhura ji is going to explain the meaning, the relevance, the bhava of it, everything. Any
Yeah.
addition to that?
Just to add there, yes, definitely I'll be explaining the meaning, like the pada artha, perhaps the bhava artha will come to you. But yes, I will definitely give a background of what we're doing, why we're doing for every prayer that is introduced in level 1. Like I mentioned, going forward, perhaps, see, Veda especially, meaning is never explained. Then you'll have to go to a Gurukula system and study the Veda traditionally that way. Even there, chanting comes first and then discussion. But Sahasranamas as well, there'll be no meaning because it's very elaborate and we will end up having a philosophy session than a chanting session. For the foundation course, absolutely, I'll be explaining all the meanings. And somebody has asked, it is not necessary to learn Sanskrit to come to a chanting class. However, in chanting class, you will learn Sanskrit to apply it for chanting, not the grammar aspect of it, or I will not even be explaining the Sandhi rules, but I will be giving a cue as to this is where Sandhi breaks and this is what changes here. You just need to make a note of that much. As a parallel interest, if you'd like to pursue Samskrita, why not? Wonderful.
In fact, this is a point I had in my mind, Sindharaji. So I want to learn Sanskrit as a language like fully. So now I'm realizing that maybe going through this program first will give me a kind of a sneak peek into the language of Sanskritam itself, and then learning Sanskritam as a language perhaps will strengthen my learning.
Yeah, absolutely. It will accelerate it because you are familiar with a lot of words, and because even in Sanskrit classes, they give reference of either Bhagavad Gita or some shlokas where you will find that, the conjunctions and how it's breaking and all of that. That is just Sandhi Samasas. But even the cases when we study, it will definitely get easier. I am a student who is still learning as well, so I do not teach Samskrita. I know enough to teach chanting.
Lovely. And congratulations, Sanjay ji, for registering. Thank you for taking a big step towards the journey of chanting for holistic growth. Sajjan ji, yes, you're living in Rajasthan, wish to attend with your 12-year-old son. Absolutely. In fact, I want to take my entire family and sit along with everyone. However, as Sindhoora ji mentioned, one person will get the corrections, and let that person be the same person throughout the course. So let's not make it one session I get correction, next session my son gets correction, third session my wife gets correction. That won't help the persons. Okay, so to keep it a proper continuation, like one person who has registered be the person who gets the correction. Let your family sit along, and that's it will become a family culture of chanting together. Okay, so and given that, see, in a session about 25 people are going to get corrections, so it's not that others are going to sit quiet. So we are going to chant along with others while one person is getting correction. So imagine 20, 25 people getting corrections. Many of corrections for our family members will happen automatically. Yeah. And Lalita ji, congratulations for registering. Sri Rama, congratulations for registering in spite of knowing that you're going to relocate to Australia and then you'll be in a different time zone. Congratulations. We'll just read through some of the comments shared, and then we'll conclude in a few minutes. Anagha ji, oh, Anagha from Pune. I know her. So, congratulations, Anagha. And by the way, if we have friends and family members in your vicinity, feel free to share the link of the WhatsApp group of corporate seekers. Let them be members of those to walk this journey together, and they can register as well. Sajjanji, duration, uh, we both will register for in person. How many days will have to stay? So this is going to be about 6 to 7 or 8 weeks, which is about 1.5 months plus. And each session is going to run about 60 to 70 minutes, give or take 5-10 minutes. So Aarti, you have mentioned in the beginning of the session that I have also wanted to learn and study Vedanta. I have been listening to Swami Sarvapriyananda for a while now. Can you suggest how can I start with it? I feel restless sometimes for listening to Swamiji. I have to start online because of my family responsibilities. Kindly suggest how to start Vedanta studies.
Okay. I didn't get the name of the person who asked this.
Aarti ji.
Artiji, okay. Artiji, the best place to go and study Vedanta systematically is Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, Coimbatore, and there is Arsha Vidya Peetham in Rishikesh. Whichever center is close to you, it'll be a wonderful thing if you can go and study there. When I mean go study there, you can start attending retreats. They offer 1 week retreats, 10 days retreats, 2 week retreats. See whatever works out for you whenever you can travel. And they have some ongoing classes already. My teacher, Swami Shankaranandaji, who's already teaching Bharadaranyaka Upanishad for the last 1.5 years. So you can wait for anything new that is launched and enroll into those classes. Swami Sarvapriyanandaji is from Ramakrishna tradition, and his talks on specific topics are wonderful. But if you are a beginner, it depends on which topic and which text he's referring to. We have something called as Prakarana Granthas, introductory or like a abridgment for the Vedantic studies. So I think you can explore the website, Arsha Vidya Gurukulam in Coimbatore, Arsha Vidya Peetham in Rishikesh. Just enter, you can Google the websites, both of them, and you can just explore what courses they're offering. If you have time, this probably is for everybody, whoever is interested in studying Advaita Vedanta. Just see what course works out for you, enroll for a retreat, short retreat, and then you'll get to know if you'd like to do something like that, right? Instead of enrolling for a much longer course. Yeah. Okay.
Sajjan ji has shared an expression of gratitude to you, which I'll read out. Words are, because it came as a DM to me, so you may not be able to see it. Words are really not enough to express gratitude, but how you are helping people amidst the odds that you have gone through. She's expressed gratitude to me. Thank you, Sajanji, for introducing you to this forum. In a single sentence, I'm not alone. God is relieving me from this pain. Exactly same happened and happening here. Thank you, Sindhoraji. Wish to learn and discuss more for children as well. So, Krishna
Thank
gratitude.
you. See, again, we are all nimitta matra, right? Instruments alone in His purpose. So it's just that I have developed a certain amount of surrender to my gurus and to my Ishta Devata. And I keep it open, use me wherever I can be of use, because ultimately we are all worm food at some point. Why hold on to our big heads and big egos for so long? We definitely must do something good to help others, and that's why I came forward when Manjunath ji asked. Otherwise, I am a person who normally shies away from all of these. It's like, oh no, no, I don't do such events, is what I do. Because I am a sadhaka myself. I am still going through the difficulties of ups and downs. But yes, trying to find that balance, constantly trying to find that balance. It is not like after a couple of years of studies, things are going to be great. No, the challenges will still come. There is a sadhaka who I am in touch with from Himalayas, now gone much interior from Gangotri. When she comes down to Gangotri or Uttarkashi, she calls me. She says that just when I thought, by staying in isolation, just when I thought that I have conquered my problems, and I come out and I meet a person and I have a fight or some altercation. So that means these tests are actually going to come in the way of a sadhaka more than the person who is not really very mindfully living. That is the test, and that is what becomes a test for us to see, will we pass this or will we fall back to our old habits. So that is where it is very important to continuously train us. That is one thing I want to express with all of you. In our tradition, there is nothing like we do a couple of courses and then we stop, because this doesn't stop that easily. That is why it is always a continuous pursuit, continuous studies, texts after texts, and stotras after stotras, mantras after mantras, different suktas after suktas, even in the Veda. So this is definitely an ongoing pursuit, and I suppose hopefully even you all will take it that way one day. That is how we perpetuate our culture. We pass on this knowledge to the next generation, and also keep ourselves sane and hopefully free ourselves one day. Right? Okay.
Thank you. RPG, we spoke about Sanskritam. So I'm also looking forward to learn the basics here and then learn Sanskritam in detail down the line. Sajjanji, you mentioned about your Japa experiences. So I think we'll discuss this in the course of the program. Timings is addressed. Shri, your question of Australia movement is addressed. Congratulations to Sanjay ji, Lalita ji, Sriram ji, Anaga ji for registering. Aarti ji, congratulations. Uh, can you post which institute? Sanjay ji, I'll share the link of Arsha Vidya Gurukulam. Okay. And Jyoti ji, congratulations for registering. Badrinath ji, Badrinath ji is a breathing coach. So a very nice person I met recently. And yeah, so Sanjay ji, as we said, Sanskritam, we'll pick it up as we go along. Shashikala ji, congratulations for registering. Okay, as I forgot to share something before the details were announced. In the spirit of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, the integrated purushartha that we all are here to pursue, a part of what you pay to Sindhoora ji, I get to benefit a small part of it as a reward for bringing this whole experience to you. So I want to make sure that you are aware of this. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so fantastic, Sindhuji. I'm really looking forward to 2nd March. So as soon as 25 seats fill up, we'll keep it open for some time. I'll probably for the next couple of days, I'll communicate more to the rest of the people who could not make it to the live podcast, because many people, I remember the last podcast that we did, nearly 300 people watched
Okay.
based on the YouTube views. So
Okay.
I'm assuming more people will catch up on the recording, which I'll share right after this. And we'll close the registrations as soon as 25, whatever the number of people that you're okay to admit, and then uh, get started on 2nd March. We'll
Look
probably
forward
keep
to it.
communicating more.
Yes.
Uh, as a build up to 2nd March, if there are any communications that you want to share, I'll pass it on to the members in the WhatsApp community. So absolute pleasure. I'm no way saying that this is thank you and bye, because you have left so many bookmarks in my mind to go back to for future podcasts. So looking forward to invite you again to this forum to
Thank
enlighten
you.
us with your experiences as well as many things lined up in the future. And really appreciate that uh, you position this whole experience as not as a one-time tactical step, but as a strategic step towards a larger journey that will unfold in front of us. I'm personally really waiting for this journey to start. It started in a very organic way by reading books, Sahasranama chanting. My wife told, "Hey, why don't you do Lalita Sahasranama?" Because someone did this and then they really got some good results. So that's how it started. And I must say the divine has placed me in the right place to be in touch with you, to take this journey in a more structured, systematic manner in a Guru Shishya Parampara. So, on behalf of the entire corporate seekers, I really thank you for taking time out today. And all the seekers, do spread the word with your family and friends. Invite them to the Corporate Seekers Hub, where our endeavor is to inculcate healthy and divine habits in our lives as a way of life, as the lifestyle, as Sindhoora mentioned. Chanting as a lifestyle. So, we are endeavoring towards inculcating healthy and happy habits for each of us as a lifestyle. So, it becomes automatic. So, in this endeavor, the more people gather, it's a satsang. So, let's walk this journey together. I'll share the link for the recording of this podcast in a while. Thank you so much. We may end this with a prayer,
Yeah.
Sindhuraji.
I would like to share just a couple of things before we end. I'll make it quick. I know, wow, you've all been patiently sitting for 2 hours. I really, really appreciate that. Commendable. Thank you for bearing with me for 2 hours. Quick thing is, like Manjuji already covered on most of these things, I would like to emphasize on a couple of these. It is definitely a strategic approach to start something that is going to stay with the rest of your life. It is not 1 or 2 years of studies. Even let's say you cannot persevere for that long for whatever reason, external reasons, but whatever you learn during that period for 1 or 2 years, because it's a long commitment and nobody can make a commitment for that. I might not even live that long. Who knows? So, whatever it is that needs to be practiced every day, you carry it with your life, just the way you breathe, that is the commitment one must make to themselves. Yeah. And this is my contribution to my teachers and the traditions. So since Manjuji mentioned, I have also taken a vow to whatever the fees that you are paying for these 2 months, I'm keeping a small percentage, about 25% for my efforts, and 75% of whatever I get is going towards our Gurukulam. So that is something I'm doing as an initiation so that we can all benefit from the blessings of the Gurus, because without Gurus, we are nothing. So with that, I look forward to meeting you all in class and begin this new journey with this new family, the Seekers family. I really look forward to it. Manjunath thank you for organizing this, and hope to have such satsangs more often.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll close it with a prayer.
Sure. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ तत्सत्। श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। Thank you.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Krishnarpanamastu. Dhanyavadaha.
Thank you.
Shubhadinamastu.
Thank you.